All right, welcome to today's show. We're going to get into BitMine and talk about Tom Lee and his ETH treasury company. Also going to talk about the snafu in the market, losing lots and lots of money, and what's going to happen next, bear or bull. Going to get into Michael Saylor's MSTR prediction of $1 trillion company. And we're going to get rock and roll and talk about where we're going in the future. Not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice. Do your own research for sure. And let's jump in right now. So we're going to get into BitMine first, and we'll get a little bit into strategy here, and we'll hear from Michael Saylor. So BitMine Immersion now holds over 3.3 million Ethereum. So 3,300,000 after adding 202,000 ETH recently. So they've been buying the dip after $19.1 billion in liquidations in the market that happened on Friday. Tom Lee's added, and they are buying the dip, and they're adding more to BMNR. They're adding more ETH to the actual treasury. So that is definitely a sign of buying the dip. And if you look at the crypto market cap, it was $4.1 trillion. Trump announces the tariff of 100% tariff on China. And then all of a sudden it falls all the way down to $3.3 trillion. But then Trump kind of recants his statements and says that he wants to help China, not hurt China. He says that Lee kind of regretted what he did, he thinks, in terms of restricting the supply to the United States of the rare earth minerals, and that he wants to talk to Lee and have a conversation and help China. So right after he says that, the $800 billion loss jumps back up, and we add $500 billion back to the crypto market. So that is what's happening, and that is the weather in the sports for this. All right, so the 100% tariff obviously spooked people. A lot of people do think that as a result of that tariff, there were just players sitting on the sidelines who are waiting just for something to happen. And the moment there was a little bit of bad news or tariff news, they just hit the trigger and they went after the people who were in long positions, and they liquidated, I think it was like something like 16 billion worth of long positions, 3 billion worth of short positions, for a total of $19 billion. And that's why the market flushed out. If you weren't watching on Friday, Bitcoin went from 121,000 to like 102,000 within, an hour. Or I should say 117,000 to 102,000 within about an hour. It just started cascading. Ethereum dropped to as low as 3,400. And then you saw yesterday, we went back up to about 4,300 on ETH, and Bitcoin climbed close to 117,000. So it's going to be shady and kind of a little bit, people are going to be freaked over the next couple days. If Tom Lee talked about last week, where he said, hey, the market flushed out. It'll probably be another week. In another week, he thinks we'll be back to where we were before the flush out in the market. So let's see if he's right. But it was definitely a scary moment for all. I do not think we're actually in a bear market right now. I think we're still in the bull market. It's my personal point of view and opinion. And I think it's still going to be a great ride in the next couple months. So I'm optimistic about it. So as I just said, $800 billion was wiped out from the crypto marketplace. 500 billion came back in. And if you look at BitMine right now, its latest holdings that it posted yesterday is $12.9 billion in total crypto, plus moonshots, about 3,032,000 ETH at a price point of 4,154. They have 192 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have 135 million dollar stake in 8Co, which is a company that is partnered up with Sam Altman's creation, which is WorldCoin, and together they're going to do proof of human on the network to make sure that you're not dealing with an AI when you're trading money, transferring money, or doing any business on the blockchain. And so it's a really, really good thing. And they invested in that company as well. So those are their holdings as of yesterday. We saw a little spike in the market yesterday. Things shot up, and now they've dropped back down a little bit today. So look at these holdings here. As I just said, almost $13 billion worth of ETH and another 260 million of other assets here. So that's a big pot they've got of Ethereum. They are clearly the leader in terms of ETH treasury companies. Nobody comes close to them. And here's what Tom Lee had to say about the crypto liquidation. He says the crypto liquidation over the past few days created a price decline in ETH, which BitMine took advantage of. We acquired 202,000 ETH tokens over the past few days, pushing our ETH holdings to over $3 million. They now have 2.5% of the supply of ETH, says Tom Lee. If you don't know who Tom Lee is, he's the founder, or I should say he's actually the chairman of Fundstrat and also of BitMine. And he says, we are now more than halfway towards our initial pursuit of the alchemy of 5% of ETH. So it's pretty incredible how fast they've grown their treasury. If you look at Strategy now, Strategy's got over 3% of the supply of Bitcoin and 2.5% of the supply of ETH with BMNR here is pretty impressive. So here's what BitMine released. It says, per chairman Tom Lee, volatility creates deleveraging, and this can cause assets to trade at substantial discounts to fundamentals, or as we say, substantial discount to the future. And this creates advantages for investors at the expense of traders. So basically what he's saying here is the traders got wiped out. The $19.1 billion in liquidations was a lot of people that were trading on leverage, and they got wiped out. And so this is an advantage for investors to buy the dip. This chairman's message explains our framework for why we see Ethereum in a super cycle driven by the AI and Wall Street moving into the blockchain. If you don't know anything about BMNR or MSTR, and you want to get the basic fundamentals on it, you can go get my book down below. My book is called Money Game, and this is a new book that I created, and it talks about BMNR, MSTR, Ethereum, Bitcoin, AI, my trading strategy where I make approximately 5% a week trading. And it talks about the history of money, the Federal Reserve, etc. So if you don't know the fundamentals of all of this, you should definitely jump in and read this book. It's a very good book, and you can get it for free down below. Okay, so back to what we are sharing here. So let's get back to talking about BitMine, and then we'll get a little bit into strategy here. So the goal isn't just to hold Ethereum, it's to increase Ethereum per share by issuing new stock at a premium, then using that capital to buy more Ethereum. So basically what that means is when their goal is to issue new stock, and they're going to issue new stock, and they're going to take that stock where they're issuing it at a premium at a high price, and they're going to use that money that they get to buy more Ethereum. Classic MSTR playbook strategy. So here's how it works if you don't know anything about Bitcoin and strategy. If you look at strategy as a digital asset treasury company, it was $13 on 8/11/2020. And then when they pivoted into Bitcoin, it went all the way up to $335 5 years later. And so if you look at that return, that's a massive return. And so that could be highlighting what the future potentially could be of BMNR over the next 5 years. But also, let's not forget, regardless of what you think is happening in the marketplace with strategy right now, zoom out and take a bigger look and a broader view to go, okay, so strategy, Saylor's talking about becoming $1 trillion company in the future. So right now they've got $80 billion or $75 billion worth of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So one day they could become a company valued at $1 trillion with $1 trillion of Bitcoin or more on the balance sheet. So let's not forget the longer view of this. You know, if in a worst case scenario, let's say strategy just completely tanked and we didn't have a bull market. And over the next 2 months, it's like, okay, no bull market. And it doesn't happen. For me personally, I would just hold on to strategy and ride it out until we get back into an upswing or a bull market. So that, to me, would be the worst case scenario. I know sometimes we're all looking in 60-day time horizons, 90-day time horizons to go, oh my God, it's got to hit, it's got to hit, it's got to hit. And I do get that, and I do understand that desire. And I'm playing devil's advocate to go, what if it doesn't hit? If it doesn't hit, then okay, we have this incredible asset with $80 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Like, in the future, strategy's a sure winner, is my personal point of view, not financial advice. I do think we're still going to hit the bull run personally, so I am planning for that, but I'm just giving both sides of the ball here. So certainly the gains for strategy have been super impressive over the last 5 years. Okay. They issue new shares and they raise fresh capital, and they use that capital to buy more crypto, whether it's ETH or Bitcoin. You've got strategy and BMNR employing the same strategy. Okay. There you go on that. So in short, they're using Wall Street's money to build a bigger treasury and magnify exposure to the underlying asset, which basically means they're issuing stock, right? They're issuing stock, they take the money, they buy Bitcoin or buy Ethereum, whether it's Tom Lee or whether it is Saylor. All right. So let's look at the blueprint here. If you haven't seen this before, we're looking here, Bitcoin at $11,000 on 8/11/2020. At the end of 6 months, Bitcoin went up to $47,000 in 2021. And if you look at Bitcoin today, it's gone up 10x during that time frame. Strategy was worth $13, and at the end of 6 months, it was worth $100. And over a 5-year period, it went up 25x from where it was, which is huge. So that's a big gain. And so the potential of these treasury companies is, when I say treasury companies, I refer to Strategy and BMNR. I'm not betting on any other ones. I hold both of those. But when I say these treasury companies, the potential is large for these. When we are in a bull run and sentiment is good. And when sentiment isn't good, of course, the MNAV drops and people flip their beans and it doesn't look good. So that's basically what's happening right now. Okay. So that's what happened during that time period. I just went through this. If you look at BMNR, it's the second largest crypto treasury in the world, and Strategy is ahead of it. Okay. BMNR's got like 12 or 13 billion, and Strategy's got like 75 billion in their treasury. If you look at the time it took BMNR to accumulate, this is an outdated chart, but the time it took them to accumulate, within 60 days or so, they had $9 billion on their treasury. If you look here, about, almost $9 billion. And Strategy, for them to get to $9 billion, it took about 1,200 days or so. So BMNR is accumulating Ethereum at the fastest rate, I think, seen. And it's just unbelievable to see the growth of this company. Again, they're a highly traded stock. I trade it on a daily basis. MSTR is also highly traded as well. They're both in the top 30. BMNR daily trading volume ranges anywhere between $2.6 billion and $3 billion. And it's higher than these companies like Visa, OpenDoor, which is like a real estate company, and some of these tech companies here, Marvel Tech and IonQ. So that's been an advantage for BMNR. If you look at the trading volume of digital asset treasury companies, there's no comparison. You have BMNR at 34%. You have Strategy at 52%. So they are the most traded, and they're the ones that Wall Street is most interested in. I think betting on anything else, to me, I have no interest in anything else. Across roughly 200 listed treasury stocks, total daily volume is concentrated by just two. 84% of the daily trading volume, two companies out of 200 treasury stocks, digital asset treasury companies. That's pretty wild, right? So that is the truth of it. That's where the liquidity is. And that's where the big money plays. And that's allowed BMR to grow its treasury holdings. And if you look at the rate at which it's grown faster than any other ETH digital asset treasury company by 9.3x in terms of its growth over about a 60-day period. If you look at some other ETH treasury companies down here like SharpLink and ETHZ, their growth rate has been much slower in terms of their treasury holdings than BMNR. It's not even close. So that's what the data shows. 9 weeks since BitMine began accumulating Ethereum. Actually, it's been a little bit longer than that. But that chart shows 9 weeks, but it's been longer than that. It's been like 12 weeks now. And 9x in that short window of time. That's insane. So in a 9-week period, they did 9x. And if you go out further than that, because it's been longer, it's even higher. 2.5% of the supply of Ethereum is what they own, which is unbelievable. And that's pretty impressive. So every BMNR share now represents 9 times more Ethereum exposure than it did just 2 months ago. That's pretty cool. And if you look at Trump here, Trump recants. He says, don't worry about China. It will all be fine. Highly respected President Yi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I. The USA wants to help China, not hurt it. President Donald J. Trump. So basically, he said this after he crashed the market. He didn't necessarily crash the market. His comments gave the people who were actually attacking the market a reason to attack it. They were waiting for a moment. They saw the moment. They went after the people who were long. They liquidated those positions, and the market dumped. So the traders on leverage got wiped out. I did not sell, so I did not get wiped out. I do not trade on leverage, so I do not get wiped out, and I am holding and continuing to hold for the next while here. So Strategy, if you didn't see, they still continue to acquire more Bitcoin, 27.2 million more with 220 more Bitcoin. Their total holdings is 640,000 Bitcoin, achieving 25.9% Bitcoin yield year to date. So if you don't know anything about these treasury companies, the main goal is for them to acquire more Bitcoin per share or more ETH per share. That's what Strategy is doing for its shareholders. That's what Tom Lee and BMNR is doing for its shareholders. That is the main play, and that's exactly what they're doing. If you don't know anything about these companies, if you haven't invested in these companies, I'm not saying that you do, because this is not financial advice, but you should learn about them and really understand it. If one doesn't know about BMNR, about Ethereum, they won't know about BMNR. If one doesn't know about Bitcoin, they won't know about Strategy. Again, I encourage you to go get my book, because it gives you literally a basic education and also an advanced education on all of these assets that I'm talking about here. And it literally walks you through step by step: Bitcoin, Ethereum, BMNR, MSTR. My book is down below. Go grab it for free. It's called Money Game. I talk a little bit about my trading strategy, because even while the markets are down or up, doesn't matter. I'm making about 5% every week. I picked MSTR when it was at $79. I picked BMNR, and I'm down on BMNR right now because I bought it at $60. But then I traded my cost basis all the way down to $48 on BMNR. By trading. So essentially I'm up as a result of trading it. And I continue to hold BMNR and MSTR because I do believe we're going to be in a bull run. And I believe it's going to pick up in October, second half of October, and November and December. And I will take profits in one of those months. Okay. So wide range of talk here. We got Saylor. Let's hear what Saylor has to say.
Society can digest it. What's going on with Bitcoin is evolving faster than a society can digest it. And so I think you could say this is all consistent. Bitcoin was misunderstood in the year 2011. It was misunderstood by me in the year 2013. It was misunderstood again in 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021. When we first got into the space in 2020, there were people that misunderstood it, and we had massive amount of criticism when our stock was $10 a share. When our stock went to $100 a share, it was massive amount of criticism again. When it crashed to $20 a share, there was still massive criticism. When we had $2 billion of Bitcoin, people were cackling, or $1 billion, saying, oh, you lost $1 billion on this. When we made $100 billion, everybody disappeared and slunk into the shadows. And then a new set of trolls, a new set of critics came out when our market cap went above 100 billion. It's a different set of cynics, a different set of critics, a different set of misconceptions. I think you're going to see the ebb and flow of that set of misconceptions and that anxiety. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 100,000. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 1 million. It'll continue when Bitcoin is 10 million. It'll continue when Bitcoin goes to 20 million. And there's always going to be a new narrative of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You know, the people that used to laugh and say, oh yeah, you lost $1 billion trading in Bitcoin, they're gone. They disappeared, right? There'll be a new generation of people that say, do you think it makes sense to buy Bitcoin at $1 million a coin? It's going to trade down to 500,000, right? And then there'll be a set of people that will say, you're buying it at 10 million a coin, it's going to trade to 6 million, you moron, you lost so much money. This is how societies deal with new.
So very good from Saylor. I mean, in my opinion, this company is definitely not done. This company is a solid company, and it will be for the next many, many, many years. And it's going through a rough spot right now, but I've not given up hope and optimism on where it's going to go. So the end game is $1 trillion Bitcoin balance sheet for Strategy, which I fully believe they will reach. And Strategy could use that capital base to reinvent the global credit system. And you look at what they're doing with all their different products with Stride and Strife and Stretch and Strike and all these different preferred stocks that they have in the marketplace. There's a huge demand for what they have. And they are literally on, I believe they're just on the cusp of greatness as an organization. And I believe solidly in the mission of what they're doing. I also feel the same way about BMNR. They're the two best. Nobody even compares. Nobody comes close, and nobody will catch them. So pretty impressive. So if you look at institutions, they plan to double Bitcoin and crypto exposure by 2028. State Street Research finds this. They expect the rise to go from 7% to 16% within 3 years. So that's interesting news. Nearly 60% of executives say they'll increase allocations, which is cool. And that mirrors exactly what Strategy is already doing, right? So, here's one analyst who has a bullish take. I'm sure you can get plenty that have a bearish take on this. This is an analyst, and for what it's worth, you can research them, benchmark. They're just research analysts. Remains bullish on Strategy, even when Strategy was at $324, even though it's lower today. Strategy, he gives it a buy rating and says Strategy will hit a $705 price target. So it gives you a little optimistic news. I'm not saying this is going to happen or it's going to happen or not, but it's just that's nice to see that somebody has some optimistic news about strategy and the future, despite the fact that we just had a really, really rough 3 days and people are shocked, and rightfully so. So, ultimately I understand, and it's rough when we go through a patch where things just tank like this. It gets frightening, particularly when you're in a stock like MSTR, BMNR, and it drops so much, and it's really tough to swallow. So I believe that we're going to come out of it in October and November. We are clearly into October 15th tomorrow. Typically, the second half of October is more bullish than the first half. And let's hope so in this case, but historically, because obviously the first half was a disaster. We should change the name to Oct Disaster is what we should call it. But the second half will get better, in my opinion, and November will be great as well. Okay, so there you have. This shows whether Bitcoin is overrated. I'm not going to get overheated. I'm not going to get into that today because I do have to go to another call, which is why I've been talking fast. But this is pretty interesting stuff that's been going on in the market. And if we look at the MNAV for strategy, it's down. It's probably at like 1.2 right now, which is about the lowest it's been. If we look at the MNAV for BMNR, it's around 1.3 or so. In bearish times or bearish sentiment, I'm not saying we're in a bear market. A lot of people tend to, I shouldn't say people tend to, the MNAV tends to drop. And so that's what we're seeing. We got sentiment has fallen. People's optimism has fallen. The MNAV has dropped. It's low for BMNR, and it's low for strategy comparatively to where I think it will be when we hit the bull market. So, potentially based on this, on the MVRV score, Bitcoin price could be around 180,000 to 195,000 when it hits its top. Analysts are calling between 150 and 200,000. Some people are more bullish on it, and we will see where we go. Okay. So, ultimately on the Fed, I think we're going to see more rate cuts this year. Let's just call it what it is. I think we are going to see that, and we'll wait to see if we get another rate cut. We know gold is booming like crazy right now, and so gold is just all-time highs. So I think Bitcoin will follow with M2 increasing and more money coming into the system and rates being cut, which will bring more money into the system. Bitcoin will have its moment because gold is having its moment, and Bitcoin typically trails gold. So let's look forward to a bullish time and a bullish year, and have some fun. Okay. So ultimately, I hope this serves you. Sorry I had to rush through this, but I do have another call that I need to go to, and hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I did want to come in and just say hello and make sure I'm like, okay, I know it looks disastrous, and I don't think it's going to continue to be this way. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised in October, November, and December. I think the Trumps are bullish on Bitcoin in the fourth quarter, as they announced when I watched Eric Trump recently. They hold a lot of Bitcoin. I don't think we're going to see the markets tank through October, November, December. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. So that is my personal viewpoint, not tax advice, not financial advice. Again, go get my book. It's just been a passion project to write this book. It's down below. It's called Money Game. Go snag it. Just support me in going to grab it. It would just make me feel really good. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people downloaded in the last, actually we've had over 1,000 people downloaded in the last 2 weeks. So go snag it, read it, give it to a friend. It gives the fundamentals of Bitcoin, Ethereum, MSTR, BMNR, the history of money, the Federal Reserve, traditional investments, why 10% rates of return keep people poor. And it has lots of great ideas and solutions in there. Hope it serves you, and I'll see you guys on the other side.